Hello and welcome to At One with Animals, Conversations to Inspire. These conversations are in support of the Global White Lion Protection Trust, and the website will be in the notes and the comments of this video. My guest today is the amazing Lorraine Turner. Just wait till I tell you just a very small amount of what she's done. So she's written 2 books, Sae-sii Meditation and Calico Horses and the Patchwork Trail. She's won, with her husband, numerous awards in comics. And she's a 2-time Emmy winner for computer animation in professional basketball. And just recently, she won Best of Show in an art show in Florida. So Lorraine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Janine, for having me.
So Lorraine and I met, I think it was, well, not physically, 2014. With you were doing Winter Worsthorne's animal communication course. And was it 2014? Does that sound familiar?
I think it was because I was certified right around then.
Yeah. And yeah, we well, you had a huge influence on me because I was struggling with my self-doubt, my confidence, and you gave me a swift kick up the backside. And in a very short time after that, I had also qualified. But what we did together it really helped a lot of students, because I'd set up a practice session for the students, and after that I'd said to you, I want to do that again. I want to do something like that, but bigger. And you said, well, what about a 30-day challenge? And we got, it was like 200 animals.
It was amazing.
I don't know, 30 students or something, and they were communicating with a new animal every day. It was phenomenal. And so many of those students are now qualified or nearly qualified. And
that's so nice to hear.
Yeah, and so when I'm thinking of ways to help Winter's students now, I think back to that time often. I think, okay, what can I do to help the students? What other ideas have I got? So you helped me, and your influence on me and so many other students. So
that's nice to hear.
Yeah. So. But it wasn't always easy for you. I know that you've had some challenges. So I'd really like for you to, tell us your story and how you got to where you are now.
Well, as far as animal communication is concerned, I had I have to go back to 2009, 2010. I had gone through a toxic relationship. And so I just up and moved myself. It was 1,800 miles away from where I knew no one. I just drove in my car. I took all of my jewelry that I owned, and I drove to the nearest jewelry store and cashed it in for bling. I took all my bling and cashed it in. And I took this little wad of money in my computer, and I drove to Key West, Florida, which to me was like the end of the earth, because you can't go any further. United States, just drive south. And I got a job on Craigslist working in a gallery and then a pub. But I had left a job that was very high paying, and to go to, I think I was making, I'll just throw it out there, I was making like 75 to 150 an hour just for animation, computer animation. And I went to Key West and I was making $9 an hour staying. Because I wanted a new start. I wanted to try. And most of the people that watched me do it thought I was nuts. And I understand that. Some of my family didn't talk to me because they just thought I was crazy. They really thought I was crazy. But I was in that place, Janine, where I knew that if I didn't get out of there, I was just going to continue to cry myself to sleep, have insomnia. I had, it was a terrible time in my life. So when I went to Florida, I started to find that the work that I was doing, because I got hired to do some graphic arts, but my mind was creating so much all the time that I couldn't shut it off. So every time I tried to relax, I was still designing, constantly designing. So I started to pursue meditation, and I looked at workshops, and I looked at videos, and I looked at everything on YouTube. And everybody was having these amazing, out of body experiences, whatever. And I was still sitting in my room listening to somebody cutting the grass, like nothing was working for me. So I started to do silent meditation. I had learned it from a spiritual team in the UK. They are retired right now, mediums. They were wonderful. They had a spirit guide that worked with them. And they taught me silent meditation. And really what it was to shut off, let go, and start out for minutes a day and work up to 15. And I'm still doing it today, Janine. I do it twice a day, 15 minutes a day, at least 15. And so I started to do this while I was living in Florida, and I was becoming more calm. I was becoming more peaceful. I was doing really well. But this time I had met a new person who is my soulmate, love of my life, Dean. And I told him when I came out of meditation that I was starting to see images. I'm seeing images. And he said, well, go back in there. I don't know. Just said, what do you think they are? And I said, well, I'm seeing horses. I'm seeing wild horses running. I don't know what they mean. They're all covered in fabric. They're covered in calico fabrics. I have no idea what this is. I've never had this happen to me in my life.
Explain what calico is.
Calico is in the UK and around the world. I think calico is considered to be, what do they call that? It's for patchwork, and it's tiny little flowers. It looks like it just looks like something you'd see in an old quilt. So it's covered. So the horses themselves were covered in this fabric, and then the trees were, and the mountains were, and I did this for months, Janine, and these images continued to come like it was telling me a story. It was telling me a story, like more and more was showing me, and it was intense. And the last meditation I had were these 3 stallions that came running up, and they just looked at me, pawing the earth, but they were covered in fabric. Gave me chills. I came out of my bedroom and I said to my husband, I just was so blown away by this. And he said to me, because he's in the comics industry, that's a good name for a children's book. You should look that up. And I was like, all right. So I looked it up, and I found out that the Calico horses existed, and they are named after the Calico Mountains in Nevada here in America. And that it was they just had the worst botched roundup in the history of the country. Many, many horses died, and many horses were rescued and went to a place called Return to Freedom in California. I contacted some photographer. I liked her work. I looked at the computer. I liked her work. I called her, and I wanted to tell her, my story, because I'm meditating. I'm in Florida. I didn't know they had wild horses. I thought they were just in Western movies. I didn't know. I'm in Florida. I have flip-flops. I didn't know they had horses, wild horses. So I contacted her, and she said to me, what? She was very, very standoffish. She said, why are you contacting me? What made you call me? Why me? And I said, well, I saw your photography of the horses that you've been doing, and it looks like the horses that came to my meditation. And you're talking meditation, and I don't know who's on the other end of the phone. And she stopped and said, how soon can you get here, Lorraine? That was Sunday. I was there. I flew to Nevada on Thursday. I interviewed her and all the people helping with the horses. And she told me there was another side to the story, and that the government rounds up horses because of land and mining and cattlemen. And there's all different things that go on in America. But the government has assigned something called the Bureau of Land Management, and they manage livestock, the horses and all that. So I said, well, I want to interview that. I want to interview the government. I want to hear that side of the story. She said, they won't talk to you. They're not going to talk to you. I said, well, I want to try. So I drove to the guy's office. So funny, because by this time I'm thinking I'm going to write a story about this. I'm already got it in my head. I'm writing a story about this. I'm in Nevada. I see the horses, they're baby horses. It's got my heart, tugging my heart.
Yeah.
I've never written a book in my life, by the way. So I go there, and I go to see this guy named John O'Neill. And I called him several times, and they wouldn't take my calls, whatever. So I drive there, and Janine, there was over 1,000 horses standing in pens. 1,000 horses. These are wild horses that were rounded up and stuck in big corrals. So I go there and I'm like blown away by looking at the horses because I've just seen them on my meditation. And I go knocking on the door and I have to go in there and the woman says to me, who are you? And whatever. And I said to her, look, I've had several phone calls. No one's returned them. She said to me, well, I'm sorry, he's very busy. And I said, well, when can he stay? When can he see me? Because I flew in from Florida. I'm writing a story for children and I'd like to get the other side of the story. So this guy comes walking out, he's got a cowboy hat on, he comes strolling out, he goes, I'm John O'Neill. He says, what can I do for you? I said, I'd like to interview you for a story I'm doing. He goes, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time. I said, look, picture two 10-year-old kids sitting on a bed talking about this story about these wild horses. Which side of the story do you want me to tell in the book? They should hear both sides of the story. And he says, all right, come on in. So 45 minutes later, I had my interview and my husband sitting in the car because he thought it was going to be, thank you, goodbye. But I did get that story. Fantastic. And I did write the book. Yeah. And the book is called Calico Horses and the Patchwork Trail. These are the images that appeared to me in meditation. So these are the horses that all started it all for me, Janine. And the book I wrote on meditation, Sae-sii meditation, how do you find your bliss in 15 minutes a day, was the next book that came. And it came out right around, one after the other. They just bam, bam. But meditation brought me wild horses and they were communicating with me. I believe they really were the wild horses of the Calico Mountains. So then I said to myself, well, now I have horses talking to me. How do I talk to them? How do I communicate? And so I did some research and I found Winter. And that's how you follow your intuition. There was a lot of people out there and there's a lot of charlatans out there. And there's a lot of people that want your money. And I had to trust my meditation to lead me to Winter. And when I finally was led to Winter and started to do all the lessons and go step by step, then I found myself saying, maybe I can just talk to horses. That's it. So I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
because it's very intimidating. It's very intimidating because she sends you a picture of her cat, right? And you're like, oh no, it's her cat. Yeah. No, what do you do now? Yeah. And I did the lessons and I really still didn't feel 100% confident because I only went to Winter because I was in meditation and animals were starting to come to me. So it was through my work with Winter that I learned to just let go. There you go again. There's that let go. I let go in meditation and the horses came to me. Winter explained to me the reason that I was getting communication from animals is that because all people can communicate with animals, we simply have forgotten. And I had reached a state of silence where it allowed communication to come to me because I had opened up that stage by silently meditating, gave it that safe space. And I didn't have thought interrupting it. I didn't have human perspective, people perspective interrupting it. So I became a messenger, right? So it's coming to me. And now as the person that's watching it, how did I know to write a children's book? Why did I even go to Nevada? I believe it was because the animals were calling me. That's really, truly what I believe. I believe the horses were calling me. And I do have a special place in my heart for horses. So that's how I started to work with Winter. And then I met you, and you and I were, I don't know, we were scooting ahead and we were doing all of our lessons. We were practicing with one another. And I had to do back at that, when I was certified, I had to do 48 cases. I forget how many cases I had to do, but I had to do a lot of cases and start to send her all my reports and Winter all my reports. And then I learned how to write nicely because, when you first start doing this, you're sending her everything in the kitchen sink and then you have to learn to condense it and all that. But I remember when I was doing it, one of my sessions, my own dog appeared and it was amazing. My own dog appeared, which I hadn't seen. I had lost this animal in spirit, came to me during a work that I'm doing, volunteering to help some other person to get my certification. And my dog appears and a business card slides out, Animal Talk Africa, with my name on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? Because, you're in meditation, you're seeing these things happening. And then the other thing it did was it said tracker. So I write it all up and I send it off to, Winter. And she said, I think your dog has just certified you. I said, what? She said, yes. She said, this is what the animal's telling you. That's what the whole thing is. I said, wow, this is so cool that my dog came through to tell me that I'm certified. But the tracker part of it, Winter said to me, yes, tracking that. Do you know what tracking? And she showed me about tracking and talked about tracking. But Janine, it never resonated with me. I didn't feel like I was going to be a tracker. However, I became known for doing missing animals. Yeah. And I did a lot of work with missing animals for years. And so that's my journey, was taking me in a direction where, again, you have to let go and trust, and then follow your intuition to see where it's going to take you. My immediate response to being an animal tracker was, I don't want anything to do with animal tracking. But the more work I did and the more I got into this and helping people, I felt like the cases that were coming to me, because I don't put a sign out and say, hey, come talk, I'll talk to your animals. This is how much I charge, whatever. I started doing it actually to dedicate all the funds to whitelions.org. That's when I first started doing this. I was just doing animal communication and dedicating everything to them. And the cases that kept coming to me were well, they are very specific. I will say that because in my past, I will talk to about this very briefly. I was abused. And so there was abuse in my past from long, long time ago. And so the cases that started to come to me were of abuse, and I didn't pick them. So either the people were being abused or the animals were being abused. And those cases seemed to be, if you were going to put a theme, that seemed to be coming to me. And I didn't ask for this. Well, I personally could not turn that away, but I found in the communication that the animals would bring it to my attention. So I would see images, or I would hear, that's how animal communication works. It's you let go and you find your happy space and you just quietly watch. And in some of my cases, I saw some really violent things, and I realized that I could either withhold and not tell the client, or I could just write it all down. And I did that. And from there, I've helped a lot of people because they haven't even been able to talk about this abuse, or they don't even realize that their cat or their dog is seeing this, or they'll say to me, well, the cat wasn't even alive when this was going on. It doesn't matter. It's in your energy, and the cat knows it's still hurting. You're still hurting. And so that's where, I didn't really mean to get into all this, Janine, but this is where my energy went.
Yeah.
It's not, I didn't ask for it. I guess that's the whole point of this conversation of the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for anything specific. I was just living my life daily.
Yeah. And following the signs.
Just going with the flow.
Yeah. And I think, as you say, because of the meditation, because you had that silent space when you were meditating, you were more susceptible to the signs from the universe and more open to it. But I wonder, one of the things that I struggled a lot with, and one of my big resistances was dealing with the emotion. The emotion from the people, the emotion from the animal, and even the emotion that came up in me when I was communicating. So, working with cases, like you say, abuse of other humans, abuse of animals, how did you hold that emotion in you without it crumbling, without you crumbling?
There's something, I think Gandhi has a statement, and I always think of Gandhi when I think of these kind of situations, because in order to help the mass, you have to rise above the suffering. And I might not have quoted him exactly, but that is the intention of his quote, was that you need to rise above to help all. And so I had to be very careful in doing this work to rise above the suffering to be able to help. And it just was a mindset, Janine, that I had from the very beginning, that I knew that if I was going to be of service to others, that I needed to not get sick, not find myself ungrounded. I need to ground, align with the earth's energy. I need to protect myself. I need to do cleansings of my energy. All of these things I learned from Winter and others, but they're all vital into doing this work, or you will find yourself ill. And many animal communicators that have been seriously ill, very ill. There's a lot of things that happen because you've picked up energy from others.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very, protection and cleansing, clearing, grounding, knowing when to say no. I've had cases that come to me and I know intuitively, no, I cannot take this on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't take this on.
And you use crystals a lot, don't you?
I do use crystals. I use crystals in meditation. I use an aquamarine crystal for animal communication. But I do like to use crystals and work with crystals and their energy. And they've helped me with my meditation tremendously. Yeah.
And doing those cases, you just mentioned, you know, your own abuse. Did you find that working through those cases with other animals and people, I should say other people and animals, did you feel like that healed you in some way as well?
No, I can't say it healed me, because I felt that once I learned, okay, so let's talk about that. So once the meditation began and I learned to let go, I understood through meditation, because it was brought to my attention via meditation, that every time I thoughts are living things. And every time I thought of the abuse, it was like picking a scab and I was opening up the wound. So meditation taught me and gave me the ability to say, this no longer serves me. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to, it's not a part of me. It's not a part of my energy. So I would say before I became an animal communicator, I had already started to understand to let go of certain things. So when I started working with clients, let's talk about this. Here's your journey. I'm being prepared without me knowing it to help people and animals in the future. So I feel that our guides use your past experiences, your past life experiences to help others. I will talk to you about a case, because I think this is fascinating how this happened. A dog that I was working with was feeling humiliated. It had some humiliating experiences. So I was getting the overall sense of humiliation. So as I'm doing the communication, oh man, you're just not gonna believe this. I see myself age 5 in kindergarten performing in a play of Goldilocks. And in real life, this happened. So that I see myself as Goldilocks, which I told them I didn't want to be Goldilocks, but I had blonde hair, so they made me be Goldilocks, on stage in front of a full audience, kids, students, parents, and teachers, wet myself. I wet myself. I kept telling them I had to go to the bathroom and they wouldn't let me go. And in front of everybody, I wet myself. So 5 years old, I wet myself. This dog brought me this scene because he was having trouble with his bladder and the guardians were humiliating him, or he felt humiliated. And so as I'm doing the communication, I'm like, why am I seeing this? This is a horrible memory. It's like, oh, this is the last thing I want to think of. It was horrible. I had to walk home in my wet little pants, all the way home with the wind blowing, the whole thing. And I believe that my guides and the dog helped me get the feeling of what this animal was feeling, totally humiliated for wetting carpet, whatever. And I was able to work with that guardian to help it. But that's the kind of things, Janine, you don't know when you set up to be an animal communicator what's going to come up.
No. Wow.
But that was a really interesting turn of events, because from then it teaches you, okay, now when you do this, it's like anything goes, Lorraine. They could be showing me, I don't know, I could be in the bathtub, I don't know, but I'm going to see and feel what the animal's feeling. The animal's feeling. And that was a real big was game changer for me, that particular case.
And I remember you received a lot of songs in your meditations as well. And your
I do. I get songs, and Winter used to I don't think Winter gets songs, so she got a kick out of it because she's training me, and I'm saying I got the song. But one of the cases I did, I remember it very well, was a woman that wanted to know if it was time to have her cat put down, because the cat was very aged and it was crippled and it wasn't doing well. And she wanted me to ask the cat. And so I did ask the cat, and the cat was really, really, it was a beautiful old cat, but the cat brought me a road sign I saw a road and I saw exit here, And then I heard Woody Guthrie singing, "So long, it's been good to know you." So long, it's been good to know you. And that song, oh, gives me chills.
Yeah.
I was
Me
able to
too.
convey her. And a German Shepherd came with a red scarf at the end. A German Shepherd came with a red scarf. And I love this. When I get animals who have crossed, they are vignetted and they're in black and white. So during the meditation, this German Shepherd in black and white with the vignette soft edges came. And then it closes with that song, So Long, It's Good to Know You. And I was able to convey this to the guardian, and she felt at peace because that was her German Shepherd that had passed. And the exit sign in the song was all she needed. I mean, that was it.
Wow.
So there again, if
Yeah.
you're starting to do this work and she's saying to you, is it, I just need some assurances. The cat, no, we'll be okay if the cat is put down. And you bring her three things: a German Shepherd, a song, and an exit sign. Don't interpret it. Just give her the message.
Do that.
Bring the message.
Yeah. Let the guardian do that.
She was able to really find comfort in that. And it meant, wouldn't really mean anything to me. I knew when I was finished meditation, I wrote it up, that the song alone to me felt like the cat was saying, yeah, it's good. It's all good. So she was able to go in peace. Those are the type of things that I used to say to you, Janine, that's not in the book.
Yeah, I remember.
That's not in the manual.
I remember that. Yeah.
We had cases in the beginning where I remember this very well. It was a case I was working with an animal, and I saw a purple balloon, and the guardian just came back. And that's another thing you learn to work with guardians, because the guardian was like, my cat doesn't ever have balloons. I've never had a purple balloon. There's no purple balloons in my house. And in the beginning, I thought that I was wrong. I thought that I had not gotten it right. I thought I had failed. I thought if I would have stuck with this and they didn't have a purple balloon, I messed up. And then I realized that I get a lot of symbols. So I get crystals, I get purple. I can have something about throat. Has there been a problem with the throat? Because I can see a crystal that's related to this area, the chakra center. And I started to understand that you have to trust. You have to trust. One of the things that Winter has taught us is that the animals never lie. And I remember that the animals don't lie. So if I'm getting information that's coming to me and it doesn't resonate with the guardian that I'm working with, I can just say, put it on the back burner, and it might make sense later. Or I can ask her questions specifically about whatever that chakra energy of purple is relating to. And I have found that that's been very helpful for me to look at it with a new perspective, a different perspective, not a people perspective, a spiritual perspective, really, and just let it be. And I don't worry about being right or wrong. I just don't. I'm not going to get into that. I really don't want to get into that. Like, I'm not going to argue with client,
No.
I did have one case in Africa. In South Africa, I had a woman who her dog had turned on her. I forget what breed it was, but the dog had turned on her. And it was very, very violent. So she contacts me. I start working with the dog, and I am getting images, Janine. I can tell you right now, it came from the dog because I don't do any of this. I saw violent pornography. The dog brought me violent pornography against women. Against women. So I write it all up and I send it to the client, and she writes back. She goes, "Oh, that's my boyfriend." I was like, "So where is the dog during all this?" And she said, "Oh, well, the dog." I'm like, I said, she goes, "Well, but I broke up with him." It doesn't matter. The dog has been in this energy all this time. And the dog has turned violent against her, and the dog is bringing me images of this. Now, why in the world would I need to see that? It was because we needed to talk about it. We needed to talk about it. So that was profound. That was a really profound case, only because I think sometimes that it comes from your memory, right? These images are in your meditation memory, but I'm like, I have no memory of this. I never saw this before.
So how did you heal that sort of situation with the dog?
I was able to talk to her because she was acceptant. She actually had acceptance to all of it. She was looking at it as if, oh, that's him, that's not me. But she had allowed it in her space. What? So then you have to dig into a little bit deeper. What is it about your self-doubt, your self what you think what you think of yourself, your self-image, that you would allow yourself to be in a relationship with someone that is, because the dog's basically holding the mirror up and saying, look.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we just worked with some, I'm not a psychologist. I don't pretend to be a psychiatrist or anything else, but I needed to show her and give her tools of clearing the energy. First of all, that's what we worked on, Janine. We talked about clearing the energy of the house, clearing the energy around the dog. We had to do some stuff, and I talked to the animal about it, and I went from there. And as you know, a lot of times with these cases, you never hear from the people again. So
no, you have to just.
I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those.
What did you do? What did you suggest for the clearing of the house?
Well, for clearing, I work with sage. I like to use sage. I also have I have bookmarked a great link on the internet that talks about clearing and the best ways to clear, because there's some people that, especially in South Africa, I remember Anthea said to me, we don't have white sage here. It's not something we have to use for clearing. So that made me realize that I have to get more universal for people that don't have that particular way of, right? Yeah. So I found different ways to find it in salt water. There's all different, just opening up the entire house to air the house out, was a good place to start right there. Just air the house out. But those are the types of thing. And I have learned in my communication, and I learned this through experience, that I get sometimes fractured energy. So that means I'm trying to connect with an animal, and it looks like a TV station that won't stay. It's just all, it's all like static, a lot of static. And so I've learned that means there's fractured energy. And if the client does a healing or cleansing, I can then try to help the animal. But there's many times when I can't get through. It's another reason why I feel really confident and feel really good about the work that I do, that I take a fee, it goes directly to a nonprofit, and then I begin to work. So it's not like I feel like I'm performing, Janine. I'm never performing. No one's ever paid me, and now I have to come up with some information for them. I don't work like that. If the animal's going to speak to me, it's going to speak to me. If the animal's going to bring to me that your husband's cheating on you, that's what the animal's going to bring me. I put that in my work before I even take on a client and say, this is all the animal. This is what might happen. This is what might not happen. And the fractured energy thing we get into, and that has happened many, many times for me, where a client just has so much toxic stuff going on that the animal, I can't even get through the animal. That's happened to me a lot. Yeah. And they're welcome to come back, and we can try again, but you have homework to do. You need to get the energy clear. Yeah. And I also clear myself, because I'm thinking, well, maybe it's me. I don't know. It's a two-way conversation. It's like being on the phone. Maybe the static is with me. So I will cleanse, and I will clear, and then I will continue it on and see how it goes from there. But that's just some of the things that I've been doing too, in my journey as an animal communicator. My journey today, it's led me to many, many places, different places I had not expected. In 2015, I was with Winter. I flew to South Africa, and I was with a group of people, and we worked with, Mandela was still around. Mandela was the lion that was an amazing animal. And it was during my time.
Hang on, there he is there.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah. It was during my time with Winter that we went and started to communicate. It was about a week before he died. He was really at the end.
I remember it was very close. Yeah.
And Winter said, when we go, you can ask for a message and see if there's a message, and just have a silent meditation. And I sat and had my meditation, and this animal, Mandela, brought me images of myself doing textile art, which I'd never done in my life, and that I was going to be selling it to assist nonprofits. And he showed me my hands also with a basket weaving, and he said I was to never to look at what was coming back, because you can't outgive. So it was a weaving event. So I saw it as a weaving, and I had textiles, and I had illustrations that I knew were mine. Janine, every artist knows their work. It was my work. And I had never done this before in my life. And that was October 2015. April 2016, I began doing this work. One of my first pieces, because my husband said, you should do this. One of my first pieces was the cover of my book.
Yeah.
So this is all fabric, thread, felting, dyed cheesecloth, ribbons, sari silk, doilies, lace.
It's amazing.
Handwork. I've never done this in my life, but this lion told me I'd be doing this, and I trusted Mandala. So I began doing this work, and then I became, you should have seen me, Janine, and I didn't even know what the word meant. I had to look it up. They said to me I was prolific because I was turning out all this art. This is the art that's behind me. So I'm doing all this art, and I'm helping endangered animals, and I'm selling it in Etsy, and I'm doing it out of my home. My husband, of course, is still, we're in the comics industry, and I'm the art director for the comics thing that we're in, but I'm so busy sewing for, to give money away to endangered animals that I'm wearing, like, this is my hat now, I'm selling. So I'm doing all this work, I'm having fun, I'm illustrating animals, and I get a phone call, and it was from the International Quilt Festival of Houston. And I said, who? And she said, we are the largest international quilt festival in the world. And I said, oh, okay. So whatever. She said, we'd like to know if you'd be interested in doing an exhibit for us. It's like, what? I found out later that people try for years to get one piece in.
Wow.
I had 26.
Wow.
26 pieces.
And they came to you.
And they called me.
Yeah.
They called me. So I had 26 pieces, and it was still, Jeannie, I had never had my art in a gallery. So Dean and I are in Houston, and we're at this thing, and I walk in, oh, it gives me chills. I walked into this huge arena, and I am front and center. So there's all these people exhibiting, and I am front. Wow. This isn't the animals. I'm telling you, this is totally, because it was for the animals.
Yeah.
So I'm front and center. I see my pieces. These two pieces were in the show, and I've got red dots on the art. And I'm saying to Dean, somebody's put red dots on my art. What's these red dots? And I found out it meant they were sold. So these pieces, 3 pieces sold before the show even opened, before the doors even opened. And then 11 pieces in total sold at that show. And I had never been to a show in my life. That was my first time ever doing it. While I was there, a fabric company called Free Spirit signed me to be a fabric designer. The sewing machine, if I turn it around, Janine, I don't know if this is, see this sewing machine over here? Look at this sewing machine. You see that big sewing machine?
No, hang on.
That's a sewing
machine. Oh, this one here. Yes.
This is Bernina.
Yes.
Bernina?
Yeah.
Okay, so while I become a fabric designer, Bernina, the sewing machine company from Switzerland, contacts me and says to me, are you sitting down? I'm like, I'm in my house. I'm like, okay, I sat down. Yes. She said, we're making you a Bernina ambassador for the work that you do, and we're placing that machine in your home. That's how, I mean, so again, I truly believe that Mandala gave me a message. I followed the message. I continue to do this work, and doors open. And then the next exhibit I did of Mandala, I did a representation of him. This sold as well. Now, all these pieces back here are not one piece of fabric. This is a gazillion pieces of fabric that are snipped and clipped and all brought together. This is lamb locks, llama, alpaca. This is 6 spools of thread, 6 spools of Aurifil thread from Italy, and Aurifil made me an Aurifil designer. So they sent me 207. I have 270 colors of thread. But look at this. A lion told me to do this.
Yeah.
I did it.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I am today. That's really what I'm doing today. So this Sunday, for the first time ever, I started to paint on fabric. You really want to hear the story? I started painting on fabric. And the ink tints people that make the paints contacted me on Instagram. I am not kidding. They contacted me on Instagram and said, Lorraine, you're using I love this. You're using an older box of our product, and we'd like to send you a new box. They're $150 for these pencils.
Wow.
So this is what I've been doing. So this is all hand painted. And then I paint on fabric, and I quilt. The whole bag's all quilted, and it's all lined. And this is a little lunch bag. And I started making these, Janine. I got so carried away that I stopped everything. I started making these little items. and I made over 60 of them. And I'm doing an auction on eBay for endangered animals. So everything that sells is going to go to endangered animals. And of course, I have to have horses. There's lots of horses in my world.
So when you say that the money goes to endangered animals, does it go, do you decide that it's all going to one place, or does it go to different places?
It's a good question, because when I first began doing this, I was working with White Lion.org, and I did my animal communication. And through meditation, I brought information. That's really how it works. And so I learned of wolfconnection.org. It's a group here in California that works with troubled teens, that teaches them pack mentality and how they can overcome. I work with horselink.org, which works with veterans that are retired people and veterans that feel like they're no longer worthy. And they team them up with retired show horses that no longer feel that they're worthy. Horselink.org. So that's just two. I work with Ipswich Koala Society, Rescue Society in Australia. I work with Sheldrick in Kenya, Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. I work with Return to Freedom. Return to Freedom, where the horses first came to me, I had seen, and you can't see it too well in here. Well, maybe you could see it in here. So if you look really closely here, you'll see patchwork. See all this patchwork here?
Yeah.
So the mountains in Nevada have patchwork. So when I saw that patchwork in my meditations, I thought that was what I was seeing. I thought I was seeing the Calico Mountains. Then I went to California to meet the real Calico horses, 40 stallions they had there, 40. Nobody puts stallions together, but because they are a herd and they live together, they work very hard to keep the herds together, because they were all rounded up with helicopters. And there's 40 stallions all in one place. And I went to see them. And as we got there to the top of the hill, I made Dean stop. I said, stop, stop. And I got out, and that rolling hill of Return to Freedom was the, oh, gives me chills, the same patchwork I saw in my meditation years ago. So it wasn't Calico. It could have been Calico, but it wasn't necessarily. When I saw these horses roaming and moving, it might not have been Nevada. It could have been where they were going, because they ended up in California. And that's what the land looks like. It's just this rolling hills of beautiful patchwork, you know, flowers and wildflowers and grass and whatever. And to this day, I still work with Netta DeMea, and I work very closely with a lot of my work. All my horse that gets sold, any or horse art that I get sold, goes to Return to Freedom. So that's how I choose my nonprofit. So when I'm doing promotions, I say I'm helping endangered animals. I'll even get people say to me, well, Lorraine, a horse isn't on the endangered list. I said, talk to the horses. talk to the horses.
Yeah.
I mean, in Australia, they shoot them.
The wild
horses
are
okay? So
the Brumbies,
if you want to talk to me about, they're not on the list that man-made, you know, there's a man-made list that humans make. I'm sorry, but talk to the animals, because they feel endangered.
Yeah.
Polar bears, you know, there's so many. And Janine, that's another thing, is that when I started to be a fabric designer, so then I came out with Fabric Line. So this was my first collection of fabrics, Calico Horses.
And amazing colors.
And this, I did barrel cactus and a little roadrunner here. But look at these colorful things. So this is what I saw in meditation. So whatever you see me design is brought to me in meditation. So even as a fabric designer, I'm looking at images brought to me. There's a little fold there. See a little fold.
Where's the fold?
Right there.
I have
a tucked in cactus.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the fabric line. So then I donated a portion of my royalties for the fabric to I earmark. So I just did, I had a wonderful letter from the Marine Animal Response Society in Nova Scotia. And my second line was all about migrating animals, all migration. And they help cut the whales from the fishing nets. So they just, I mean, it's boots on the ground, Janine. I cannot be there. I can't be in a boat cutting a whale out of a net. They can. So I feel that I'm doing my part. I'm donating my services, my art. And I got this just heartfelt thank you letter from them, because they're so small of an organization. It's like, why did you choose us? Again, it's brought to me meditation, and there's only there's so few, and they've got so few of a staff that they're busy in the booths. They're not even answering emails. So when they finally got my email and the check that I sent them, they were like, who's this woman and what's this fabric?
Yeah.
So that's how I choose. And that's been, like I said, the journey's the destination. You can't outgive. Mandela told me you can't outgive them. So I'll keep doing this until, I don't know, until I can't see or sew anymore.
And you've also taught. You've been to Europe before COVID, of course. I remember you were in Ireland and Italy, and you were teaching. So I wonder, when you're teaching, do you share, the how it all came to you during meditation, and do you teach people, how to meditate, or what do you do?
It's a good question, because when I start out a group, I love this. They've got a lot of people that are very skeptic, what is she, they talk to their friends, because they tend to do this in groups. So you'll get a bunch of friends that'll get together and they'll come and do this. And I'll just show you one piece here. This is 2 zebras. So again, this is all just fabrics and threads. So this is something I would go to the organization. They would gather the women, mostly women that learn, and they have their sewing machines, or the sewing machines might be already there. And I will begin with a meditation, and they can join in, or they don't have to join in. And I also offer animal communication. I will show them how easily it is, and how to work with your heart energy, and explain that I'm not a pet psychic, but I'm someone that connects through heart energy. I explain all of this, Janine, and if they don't like it, they don't like it, but that's who I am. And it's so funny. I did a week retreat in Lake Tahoe here in the country, and I had about 20, 25 people in there. And I said, okay, now tomorrow, before we start at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be out by the lake near that bench. And for those that want to meditate with me, we're going to do a morning meditation. And I'm also we're going to learn we're going to talk to our animal spirit guides. If you'd be interested in talking about your animal spirit guides, you can come out there. So they all said, no, they're not doing it. No, them. So I go out there 8:45 the next day. The circle is filled with everybody there, and they wanted it every day. Like, Lorraine, we're doing that tomorrow. We're going to do that tomorrow. So even though they say no, people are open to it, and there's a lot of people that could use meditation for a lot of reasons, especially with COVID, with a lot of reasons. But I teach internationally, and obviously during the pandemic, I wasn't able. I canceled Australia. I was supposed to be in several places. But what I did, here's another thing, Janine, I did that Lake Tahoe thing, and that was in July. By August, my meditations were telling me I needed to do webinars. And I hate seeing myself on camera. I hate working on the computer now that I'm sewing. I didn't want to do any of it. I kept saying to my husband, I don't want to do technology. I don't want to do any of this stuff. But I learned it. And I learned to do a 2-camera setup so you could see my hands and whatever. The pandemic was the following March. So this is preparing me, right? So before the pandemic, I contact fabric stores. I'm asked to teach in Brazil, Spain, everywhere I'm asked to teach. I can't be there. I just can't be all over the world. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this webinar thing. I'm going to learn how to do this. And you know what they said? Our customers will never go for it. I'm sorry, but we want you here. You need to be here. I'm like, I don't want to go to Texas. I just don't feel like going to Texas. Why can't they come to me? Now I'm going to sit here and teach. I'm sorry, Lorraine, we can't do that. Pandemic comes. I've been Zooming since, and now I'm zoomed out, right? I'm all zoomed out. I've been Zooming so much. Then they contact me and want to know if I'm interested in doing a thing. I'm like, I'm zoomed out. So now, Janine, I do demonstrations. So like my webinars are 2 5-hour days, and they learn how to do this. It's intense work.
Wow.
2 5-hour days. And then for my demos, I'll just do an hour of you watching me, and I'll just show you exactly how I do it, step by step, exactly how I do it. They're very popular. Heck of a lot less money, more affordable for people, and easy for me because I just can, do my recording, and then I put them up on my website and they can purchase that, demonstration of me. But right now I'm so busy with creating art for future exhibits, for everything that you see here, everything you see me doing is for endangered animals, everything. So I don't, that's why I say it. I don't really say it like, I'm saving the polar bears. I earmark things. So if I have something on it, I think I have something over here with a zebra or something on it. But like, for instance, this. So this little owl, I work with the Seaside Seabird Sanctuary here, and they take care of injured, ailing, and orphaned birds. So I've been donating for them for years. And so every time I do a bird, I have a group that I will, help. The domestic cats and the lions, there's an organization here that takes in a lot of stray cats and helps them find homes and whatever. So I'm thrilled. I think my camera just went off.
Yeah.
Sorry. I get such joy out of it. And I always have to stop myself and say, take it back to the core, Lorraine. Why are you doing this? If it's not fun, I'm done. I'm at that point in my life where if it's no longer enjoyable and it's a chore, or that people are calling me and asking me, I've learned how to say no. I know my boundaries. I'm really good with my boundaries, saving my energy, and I'm enjoying my life. I'm 66 years old now, and I'm doing more. I think what I have to say, I worked for a professional sports team for 10 years in the United States, NBA, Philadelphia 76ers, and I've had more aha moments and more enjoyment out of doing this work for endangered animals in my whole career. But Janine, all of that prepared me to be able to do this work, because I'm not only painting on the board, I'm painting in the computer. I know how to put up on a web. I know how to sell it, promote it, market it, because I have all that in my background. So it's been fun. And as long as it's fun, I'm going to keep doing it. When it's not fun, I'm done.
Well, I hope it remains fun for the rest of your life, because we need you and the animals need you. But I love that I love your confidence and your determination, and no excuses, no you just have such a strong sense of character, but I know that it's not, you haven't always felt like that. Like you've built yourself up to that, and you did say before we started recording that you still sometimes actually have self-doubt, you still, so when looking at what you've done and what you're continuing to do, it's just phenomenal. And I remember when I first met you, and we talked a lot, and you were just like, you're such a strong person, strong character, and it's very easy to think that you don't have any self-doubt. But what do you do when you have those moments, or however it happens for you? What's your kind of process to move through that?
If I can turn this camera so you can see where I live. And I don't know if it shows up.
Yeah, we can see outside, palm trees.
So I live on the water. Water is a big part of my energy, and I've learned that water is it is a major part of my energy. If I ever feel that I'm depleted or self-doubt, or I feel like the world is kicking me down, I need to be near water. I need to put my hands in water. I need to walk in water. I need to be near water. If I lived in a cold area, I probably could go to a lake, and I could sit by a river. I could do all of that. But I have found for my energy since moving here to Florida that it has healed me in many ways. So I feel that knowing yourself, knowing what makes you tick, knowing what makes your heart sing and what lifts you is the beginning of it. I didn't know that, Janine. I really didn't know anything about that. I remember when I first moved here, I didn't even realize that there was such a thing as color therapy or color. And I was wearing a lot of blues. And I moved to Florida, and suddenly my wardrobe was coral and orange. I never wore orange in my life. Orange. And then I started learning about chakras and heart energies and emotions. And I really started to say, I've been taking care of so many people and taking care of so many others. It's time for me to take care of me. And that's when I really learned about my energy and what really lifts my energy, what changes the energy in my body, how I feel. So if I ever feel down, glum, there's times, Janine, in your life when you start to feel like, I don't know, it's kind of like out of body. You feel like, I'm not feeling myself. I don't feel like myself. Something's off and I can't put my finger on it. I meditate, I brush my mind across areas. Is it, is it this? Is it finances? Is it health? What is it? And that's when I realized that my energy is off and I need to recharge my batteries. So I will stop working. I'll get off the computer. I'll get away from the internet. I'll get away from a lot of things so that I can ground and rebuild my energy. So I was used to do Tuesdays with Turner on Facebook, and I was out there showing everybody how to do art, talking to them about meditation, helping them with animal communication. I was doing everything for free. It was just give. And then one day I was like, I'm so drained. I was drained because the energy was going out. And that's when I stopped it. And people were like, where are you, Lorraine? I've tuned in and you're not there. I'm like, I'm taking care of Lorraine. Taking care of Lorraine, going fishing sign, I don't fish. But I mean, it was just me saying, enough's enough. I need, it's all well and fine to be helping everybody, but like going back to what we talked about originally, I can't be of service to help anybody if I'm not doing well. That's what I do. So I'm aware of that. I think a lot of people sometimes don't even tune in. Well, I've learned this with meditation. A lot of people don't want to be alone with their thoughts, Janine. And meditation makes you be alone. And they don't want to think about this and they don't want to think about that. But what they don't realize is that meditation teaches you to not think, to not do. You don't have to be in that energy. You don't have to be in that moment. You don't have to relive it. You can learn to escape from it. I know from experience that meditation is key. It really is key to my whole life journey, is meditation.
Yeah, because as you say, a lot of people think that, or, they'll use, television or games on their phone or alcohol or drugs to escape, and thinking that actually slowing down and quietening your mind will actually bring that stuff up. But actually that's when you find the peace and when you, and letting go, isn't it? It's that sense of letting go and being calm on the inside, and then those things can sort of rest rather than continually trying to run away from them, which doesn't do anything except that prolongs the discomfort.
The team that taught me how to do the silence meditation, I remember I was on a call with them and I said, I go into meditation and I ask my guides this and I ask my guides that, and they just shook their head and they're like, you're doing again. And I said, what do you mean? They said, you don't go into meditation to do, Lorraine. You go into meditation to not do. I was like, what? They're like, you need to realize that you need to let go of the control, right? You're still controlling it. Dear guide, please do this, or please bring me this, or I'm asking for that. No, you need to just let go, Lorraine. And I was like, man, that's hard. That's hard.
It is.
That's hard, just to say, I'm going to go in my room for 15 minutes and not think of anything.
Yeah.
And I did it, Janine, but it took me, it did not happen right off. It took me a long time to go from a minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes, I had to build it up.
Yeah, but that's really brilliant, because I think one of the things that happens is a lot of people, perhaps people even who are listening to this and think, well, I want this amazing life, and they'll go away and they'll meditate for 15 minutes and, and then, they won't be able to stop thinking, or they'll be agitated and things don't happen. And I think what you said there, doing it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and build up, I think that's so important, because then it takes away the expectations. If you can go a minute with a peaceful mind, that's actually quite huge these days.
It is, especially with everything that's going on.
Yeah. I mean, even for me, I think, I meditate every day, but it's usually I'm, sort of focusing on somewhere in my body I'm actually doing, you know, but you know, I know that I tried this when we talked and you told me about this, and I think what I didn't understand then that I understand now is that actually small steps are the key.
Baby steps, yeah.
Baby steps and patience, and not having huge expectations of yourself and your experiences. Also, for me, I think, you know, that was a big thing for me. And, you know, one of the reasons it took me so many years to get these interviews going is because I had these, you know, these expectations of what I think I needed to be, you know, this good to, you know, be able to get out into the world and be accepted. But actually, you just follow your heart. And this is the thing, this is what I was trying to say before. The way that you have followed your heart and trusted, it's so pure, you know, it's got this very deep sense of purity and authenticity, you know, truth with the capital T. And I love that, because you, and as I said, you've been such an inspiration to me since we met. You know I've said this is like, you know, every time we talk, you're such an inspiration to me, Lorraine. Oh, it brings tears to my eyes, because you know, you have, you know, when we first met, just, yeah, you were a huge part. And I know that, you know, the work that I do for winter supporting the students, you know, it came from when you supported me. So, you know, I am eternally grateful.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
But yeah, and I think that you're yeah, just the way that you have just taken, and I know that, you know, we've been talking for an hour, and, you know, to sort of share everything over your whole life in an hour is it's, you know,
it's been a wild ride, Janine.
Yeah, but yeah, but I was just to go back, I wondered, you know, one of the several times you've said things that you started to do something and then you found out why, you know. So you talked about, you know, the colors, you talked about the what was it,
location?
No, the doing the Zoom calls, you know, preparing for that, and then came the, you know,
I had no idea,
that kind of thing. So what I'm wondering now is you know, so when you moved to Florida, that was before you learned about the Sae-sii meditation, right? So when you look back, do you feel like, or do you see something in your choice of Florida that was actually part of this journey, that, although you didn't know it at the time, was actually you were already heading towards this?
Well, I can share with you an experience that I have not shared with too many people.
Okay.
When I was in Florida, as you can imagine, I moved to Florida, and I had every age, every sex hitting on me. So I had old men, young men, women, you know, everybody's asked me for my phone number. And it was a very small community. The island's only, I think, 2 miles by 6 miles, 2 miles by 4 miles. It's a very small island. So I was not dating. I just was trying to heal. I was really trying to find, I didn't want any relationships. I didn't want anything to do with anybody, especially men. I didn't want anything. And so there was a guy that worked downstairs, and he was into comics. And so I just happened to know, it was like a side note, guy downstairs works in comics, all I know. And every Sunday I called it my unplugged day, and I would go to the beach, and I would drive about 35 minutes to get to the beach where I was, the one I wanted to go to, because it was a really wild, clear, nobody there kind of beach. And I listened to NPR, and on NPR it talked about something that was going on the radio about Superman. And it was a really, really interesting story. And I wanted to know more about the story. And I knew the guy downstairs was in the comics. So I wrote him an email to the 2 men downstairs, because I didn't know which one. There was 2 men that worked downstairs. And I said, hey, and they knew I worked upstairs. I said, I just heard this story on NPR, and I want to know if you could tell me the rest of the story, whatever. And I got this email back to me, it was very curt. It was like, I've known him professionally for over 25 years. Da, 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 da. To me, that's how I read it, right? Now that he may not have said that, but that's how I read it. And I wrote back, get over yourself. I know you're famous and everything, but I just want to know what the story is. So I sent off the email, not knowing that he was downstairs. So all of a sudden I hear him coming up the steps. And I'm like, there's no exit. There's no door up there. Like it's like, think of a house and you're on the second story. I can't jump off the balcony. He's coming up the steps. Oh. And I was just really snarky. I was like, yeah, get over yourself. But I didn't know he was in the building. So he comes up, and gets in the room, and he's over here, right? And I'm on the computer like this, and I look over at him. And Janine, I kid you not, I never knew what an aura was. I've never even heard of an aura. And he was glowing gold. There was a gold halo all around him. And I just kind of looked at him, and I'm registering slowly, man with gold halo in the room. It's like, what the heck's going on? So he sits behind me and he says, did you want to hear the rest of the story? And I said, yeah, because I knew he was very knowledgeable. That was about it. I just want to know about the story. He sits down, he's behind me. I go back on my computer, and I heard a voice, Janine, a voice said, pay attention, Lorraine. So now I've got a gold aura and a voice speaking to me. So I stop everything. I turn around and I hear the rest of the story, and I hear my husband now, and I married him. And he's got a heart of gold, and he was giving and donating and supporting artists that didn't own their own materials and comics. And the whole rest of the story was, he was the story. He was donating to help people that didn't own their comics, that were basically having their comics ripped off, and companies are making money off of them. How would I know that, Janine, when I moved to Florida, that this, like I'm doing my thing, he's doing his thing. We both benefited because the work he was doing in comics, I had already been doing professionally with the basketball team. I had already known tips and tricks in the computer that he had never even had. So when I showed him how to do things, he would say, that took you 3 clicks. It takes me 45 minutes. So we were a really good mesh.
You were,
really
yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And we did. We started working together, and I was able to quit my job. I mean, I used to have this job in a bar. It said, hello, party of 9, and seat people. So I was trying to pay my rent.
Well, yeah, and I have a cleaning job, so I know we do what we need to do. Yeah, exactly.
And I wasn't afraid to work, and I wasn't afraid to, I couldn't find a job in Key West. I tried to get a job. I literally went to video guys and showed them my portfolio, showed them everything, and they didn't hire me. And 6 months later, they hired me, and I said, why didn't you hire me when I first moved to Key West? You know what they said to me? They said, you know what, Lorraine? You needed to cry a little bit. What? They were like, we have so many people that come here, think they're going to make it and don't, and move away, that we train them, we hire them, we get them involved, and they get on a plane and leave. So they wanted to see if I was going to stick around.
Okay. So you stuck around for 6 months.
I'm stuck around, you know what I mean? Because I'm a hostess now, for goodness sakes, I was making good money in New Jersey, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so that is where this all. So had I not moved to Florida, Janine, my life, I know I was very unhappy with the situation I was in, but and my family, when I first left, they thought I was nuts. Now I'm the hero.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course. And I remember you did, what was it that you did something of Harry Potter for one of your grandkids?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Book club memory. She was very ill, and she wasn't able to go to school, and she was housebound, and she was couch-bound. And we started a book. Dean and I started a book club. It was just the 3 of us, and we did it on FaceTime. FaceTime. And that helped her so much, because she was down, she was depressed, and she really had a very strong disease at the time, very strong illness, and she was 10. And so years ago, we had started this Harry Potter book club where we read the books together. Dean would call it to order with a little gavel, the Harry Potter book club. And so I made her a piece of art to memorize that.
Remember it.
To commemorate that. Yeah,
Mm.
good tribute piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
these are great. This is I'm glad you remember that. That was a great memory.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, Facebook, there's so much information on Facebook, and I find myself, scrolling through for the things that have meaning, and they're so few and far between these days. But
True.
yeah, I do, I see, I remember. So I guess, so one of the questions that I have been asking other people, and I know that your answer is going to be a little different. So what part of the animal do you feel that we are communicating with when we actually connect in with an animal? So, I mean, the soul, or do you think of it as telepathy, or heart to heart, or all of the above? What part of the animal do you feel like we're connecting with, where the information is coming from, I guess? Yeah.
When I first began this work with Winter, and I did it just like you did, I had the only thing we both had was a manual. There was step by step. And every student that's working with Winter right now goes through a process where you're going to learn about this, and then you're going to learn about that, and in the end, we hope that it all makes sense to you. And one of the things, and I jokingly said to you, it's not in the manual. That's not in the book. And it is the truth, Janine. So when I'm connecting with an animal, I do not believe there's a hard and fast anything of what I'm connecting with. I do believe so many times that I have guides assisting me with the animal, because I feel it. I just feel like I'm not just with a German Shepherd. I feel like I've got their guide. Matter of fact, when I go into my meditation for animal communication, I always ask the same thing every time. I ask for protection, but I asked for my guides, the animals' guides, and the guardians' guides to join together in this communication for the highest good of all. The highest good of all. And there have been times when, I'll just real quickly tell you, I had an animal that was in distress, and the guardian brought it to me, and I think it was a cat, and the cat brought me the name Bob. So, you write it all down and go back, and I went back to her, and the animal's losing hair or whatever. And I told her, and she said, "How do you know about Bob?" I said, "The cat brought me." She goes to me, "Well, I'm having an affair." But the meditation is for the highest good for all.
Yeah.
For all. So it's not about excusing your infidelity, or that, I don't care if your marriage is bad or what's going on, but the cat's feeling it. The cat loves Bob, or loves the husband, or whatever, loves the spouse. And that's beyond me, Janine. I can't fix that.
No.
But I'm bringing information for the highest good of all. Whether she chooses to use it or chooses not to use that communication, that's on her. But that's why I always feel secure when I close, or when I finish with a case, that I have connected with what? My guides, their guides, the animals' guides, for the highest good of all. So where's the communication coming from? I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination. It could even be her guides that have stepped in and said, this needs to be taken care of. I don't know. But the cat, having trouble.
Do you ever feel like you have an auditorium filled of guides and guardians and of everybody? I can imagine that.
There was this time when Winter does this thing, and it's about meeting your spirit guide.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to meet your spirit guide. And I used to get upset because I felt like I fail. I can't meet spirit guides. And she said to me, Lorraine, she said to me, you connect with so many that it's not necessary for you to specifically have one guide, because you have a lot of help animals, but you don't need that. You don't need that. And then I got caught up, Janine, with, you see other people doing this work, and you read other people, and they'll talk about Catherine or James, or they all have names, right? Yeah. So I went into meditation. I said, I would like to meet my guide. I'd like to know their name, because everybody else has one and I don't. And I want to connect to have a guide. And Janine, this meditation begins, and it reminded me of Dr. Seuss' book, where there's like infinity of people. There was this line that went back and stretched so far, And each person came up to me and said hi. And they had so many names that I couldn't remember. I was like, hi, I'm Sandy. Hi, I'm Jim. And it's just the meditation. So the meditation is you don't need to know the name.
No. Wow.
I feel like I've got a lot of help.
I had a funny experience, or funny is the wrong word. I think it was probably around the time that we met, and I had a dream with there was it was a group of people, and two of my spiritual teachers at the time, Leslie Temple Thurston and Brad Laughlin, and this guy who was like, dressed in like white robes, sort of like Gandalf kind of white robes and a staff. And he had white hair and a beard, and he like, his face came right up to me, and I was like, oh, who was that? And it was like, this was my guide. And I'd seen him once before, many years before, and at the time I remember thinking, oh, it was like an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of character. And then a few years later, my husband grew a beard. And then like a couple of years after that, I suddenly looked and was like, oh my God, you were the one I saw in my dream. How can you be my guide? But it actually made sense, because he was a earthly bound guide, you could say. He's a very, very wise person. So it actually made sense. But yeah, so his name's Dan, my guide. But that's And
these are some of the things you don't want to. I mean, I remember when I first began doing this, there was some of this that I didn't even know how to ask Winter about some of this stuff. And then finally, when I really got to really start to begin to do this work and understand that my way is not Winter's way, it's not Janine's way, it's not Safia's way, it's not anybody's way. Yeah. My energy and the way I work, totally, every single animal communicator will work totally different. Every single one of us has something to offer, has something to use, has something in their makeup, their energy, that's going to be able to help as a whole, but not to look to the left or to the right and say to yourself, this person can, I mean, I have to say, I have been given, like, I was given a license plate one time, and it was definitely spot on. It was a license plate, but I don't find myself needing to prove anything to anybody. And I don't need to be, as I used to think when I first was learning to do this, the accuracy, being 100% accurate. How do you know you're not accurate? How do you know when the guardian says to you, I'm sorry, I never heard this name, or I don't know what you're talking about, or I've had people say, well, my dog doesn't even like tuna fish or whatever, because maybe I saw a can of tuna fish or whatever. Yeah. And I used to feel really bad after that. I used to get after that session and feel like I had failed, or I did something wrong, or I didn't get it right. And now through experience, and Janine, that's where the 30-day challenge comes in. Yeah. When you start working 15 minutes a day, every day, 15 minutes a day of communication, you begin to understand there's different people, there's different animals, like there's no two, like we know that no two energies are like, so just because you have two German Shepherds, big deal. No. Absolutely. So you learn this because of experience. It's not something I can read in the manual that Winter prepared me with, which is a great manual, and I've learned a lot, but it was in the doing.
The practicing. Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that I say, practice. That's, and
don't get discouraged. No, don't get discouraged because there are times when I take on a case, and I haven't taken on cases lately only because I've been really, my energy is in a direction. I mean, I'm using my energy to help animals in a different way. I found it works for me.
Yeah, but that was what you were contacted. Yeah.
I was guided to do this, and I don't get many animal communication cases. And when I do, I sometimes have to just give them to someone else to do it at that moment. But if ever I feel like I'm forcing it, Janine, it's not. I'm not helping anybody, And I refuse to do anything that's, well, I got, like there is times in communication when I'll get like a cloudy, foggy image. I can't even make it out. So what do you say to the guide? You either say to the guardian, I got a cloudy, foggy image. or you say, I couldn't get anything right now and I'll try again later. I usually tell them I got a foggy, cloudy image because it might mean something to them.
Yeah, but
I'm in a
that's
fog.
so true.
Lorraine,
Yeah.
I'm in a fog right now. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
But I don't get too hung up with, and I can understand as a beginning student, anybody that's watching this, don't ever get discouraged. I know it's easy to get discouraged, but don't give up because you have something to bring. The universe is using you and calling you to do this work. You're not doing this because it's something popular or it's trending. You're doing it because you're called to do it. Your heart is speaking to you.
Yeah.
Tune into that and
Yeah.
listen to it and trust it. Always trust it.
I remember, I mean, I think it's not that long ago, I sent you a missing animals case and you said, actually, I'm not doing communications at the moment. But I remember it was like, you know, many, you know, world famous animal communicators were sending their missing animal cases to you.
I did. I had
because
so many
you were so, I mean, it's the most difficult, you know, type of communication, and you just, you know, you have this amazing way because you're so matter of fact, and that comes through. So when you're working with the guardians, you're able to, you know, you've been around the block.
Janine, you and I worked on a case, and it was pretty sad. It was a German Shepherd that went missing after lightning.
I remember.
And we both worked on the case, and I think we both believed there was gypsies. There was a group of people living next door, and the images that I kept getting were of this camp. And they were told they didn't have the animal. You saw and heard the animal. I saw and heard the animal. And that's all we can do for this poor gentleman who lived in Italy. And we didn't even speak the same language, you know, but we were able to help him. But it was in that teamwork that you and I, and that's a hard lesson to learn. I mean, we were looking for a missing animal. You and I think we were, matter of fact, I think we even used a pendulum or something to find a location, trying to help the gentleman, But I treat it, I cannot get emotionally involved in it. Yes, I know what it's like to have a missing animal. My heart goes out with you, but I can't help you if I start crying.
No,
exactly. Like, so I've learned to just really separate that. Winter has sent me cases that she just feels too close to the person and she can't, you know, she can't, when you're too close to a person and they're grieving, it's very hard to go into a session. And I don't know the person from Adam, and I'm able to help. So
and even you know, students, you can know when it's someone else's animal, that, you know, you know what to do, but if it's your animal that goes missing, then it's all of that's out the window, and, you know, your heart just, you know, your emotions take over, and it's not easy.
My sister contacted me one time, and I thought, I don't know if I can help a sister, you know, because she was like crying and she was all upset. And her dog went missing, and it was a senior citizen, I'll call it a senior citizen dog, an elderly dog. So she had a black lab, and she had this other dog, and the dog was missing, and it was a terrible storm. It was raining and everything else. So I could not get through to the dog, Molly. So I went through the lab. I said, well, let me talk to Ace. So I start to talk to Ace, and Ace says, all I hear is this voice say, she went to visit the chickens. That's also, she went to visit the chickens.
Okay.
So I said to Susan, I talked to Ace, and he said she went to visit the chickens, and she goes, oh my gosh, my neighbor's just got a whole new set of chickens, and the dog's deaf. Her dog is deaf, so she's calling Molly.
Nothing.
She finds Molly sleeping underneath the chicken coop. So that was another thing I learned, is that if you can't get in touch with that animal, go.
But
there.
that's really
and you can even ask for even a dog you don't even have a picture of or name of or whatever. If there's a neighbor's dog or neighbor's animal, you can, through your communication, say, I'd like to speak to the animal that lives next door. It works. It does work. I know it sounds really out of the box, but try it. You don't know.
You do try it, and you know, they're so much more connected than we are as well, and so much more aware and sensitive, and you know, I just I have one more question, but I just wanted to say that one of the things that I'm picking up, you know, because you've been so busy, and we haven't talked so much. You know, we talked very regularly for a couple of years, and then you've been doing all your amazing artwork, and we haven't connected so much. We've a few times here and there, but what I love, and something that I'm learning for myself as well, is consistency, doing the same thing and getting really good at it. Whereas, like, for me, it'd be like I'd try something for 6 months and then I wouldn't, I'm not an expert yet. Well, that doesn't work. Then I'll go and try something else.
You darn Gemini, you.
Yeah. Well, see, you're a Gemini who does it the right way. So, you know, Geminis can be consistent. See?
Crazy. Yeah, being consistent. And also, I was telling my husband this because I started learning something new that I'm doing with painting that I had never done before.
Yeah.
And I always say, he always says to me, well, why don't you work smaller to see if you can do it? I'm like, no, I need to do big and work it.
You're gonna go big, yeah.
You know, that's the way I work. But yeah. I really do feel like this. I just feel like I treat every day like a kid with a box of crayons and a sandbox playing. I just play, Janine, and I don't expect anything. No. I'm not expecting anything. The phone rang, the emails came to me. I didn't call anybody. I didn't say, hey, I need a machine over there. I didn't do anything. I think it's that open heart. It's that open heart. And like I said to you before, you do it. If you're trying to learn something new, or you're trying to go down a new path, and it does feel like it's a brick wall, I don't beat my head against the wall. I mean, I know when there's a closed door there. If it's a closed door, it's a closed door. But I always say, just this morning, my husband said, I just don't know till I try, Dean. I have to try. If I don't try, I'll never know. That could be baking bread. That could be anything.
Yeah.
Making a recipe. I don't know. It's only book knowledge until I actually try it.
Yeah.
And then I'll try it and say, oh gosh, I'm not doing this again. This is really hard.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you haven't said that every time, because I mean, the stuff you do is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure you make it look easy, but I'm sure it's not.
Not when I have people say to me, like when they look at this and they say, oh, they'll say to me, Lorraine, what's the name of the fabric that you used? Well, let me see. There's like, from here to here, there's probably 50 different pieces.
Wow.
This little zebra is you know what I mean? Like, all these are different. And and Janine, I always hide animals in my work, and that symbolizes the community of us all sharing the same resources of the planet. And so I always incorporate all that to symbolize that we all are living together on this planet, and we need to share the natural resources. So you'll see there's an elephant. I have all animals in my work.
Wow.
Everything I do that.
And you have an Etsy shop, don't you?
I have an Etsy shop.
Yeah. I
have an Etsy shop, and I have I'm just, like I said, I'm doing this eBay auction thing to try and help. We'll see. The other thing I'm noticing, and I see this a lot, and just let me just get this out here, because I just want anybody else that wants to do this and tries to do this.
Yeah, cool.
Don't get too hung up with the nonprofits. Because I work with a lot of nonprofits, and when I first began doing this, I realized that they just don't all thank you. They just don't. I mean, you could give them a car, and you get nothing. You get crickets. You get nothing. And I really had to meditate about it and say, take it back to the core, Janine. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Forget about the people that are in the office getting the money. Unless there was something wrong with it, and there's really something sketchy about it, and the money was being used something another way. And I think that would come to me in my meditation. But that I had to really step back from that, because nonprofits are so busy, and they're usually working with volunteers. They usually are staffed by volunteers, and their job is get the money, take it to the bank, get the money, take it to the bank. Like, they're not there to thank you.
No,
they're just not. No. So I've learned that with doing all this work, that the animals, that's why these doors are open. That's why I have a sewing machine company, a fabric company, a thread company, now an ink pens pencil company, all contacting me saying, Rain, we would like you to represent us. We'd like you to whatever. So I have all these logos on my website now, because of all these people.
Yeah.
But I believe in my heart the animals did that.
Yeah. And so the thanks comes, but not in the
From the
way
animals
that you would think it would come.
Yeah. So don't look for that.
No.
Don't look for that. And if you get
that's-
caught up in looking for that, then you need to recheck why you're doing it. Go back and examine why I'm doing. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, Lorraine, I want to do what you're doing. I want to do what you're doing." And I'm not seeing them doing it. You know, they'll say, "Well, I want to do something for elephants. Who do you know in the elephant world?" And I'll give them a name, you know, and then I'm like, I'll check back with them. And they're not doing it. Well, maybe they didn't get a thank you card. I don't know, but you just can't.
Yeah.
Or they can't go there.
Or they weren't so authentic in why they wanted to do it.
I think also people get caught up in, you know, I said this to my husband, I said, people must think that I'm wealthy or I'm rich, that I'm giving all this stuff away. That's not it. It's that I have had a career, a very successful career for my entire life. This is a different reward. This is a different something coming back to me. It may not be this, it might be something else.
Yeah.
And I'm able to let go of some of the things. Now I've got to buy supplies. I mean, stuff doesn't fall in the air. But for the most part, this is, and my husband, thank goodness I have a husband that's very supportive. I have a partner that's very supportive. I can't imagine doing this without a partner that is non-supportive of this. I don't know how I could even do it. So he's a big part of it.
You'd have done it in a different way. You would have still done it.
Somehow. I don't know.
The animals would have helped you in a different way. So
they do.
So one question, and I'm not asking this around the art, but one thing I really want to normalize animal communication. You know, because I live with it. We live with it. It's a part of our lives, regardless of, you know, working for other people. You know, if I get an email, can you communicate with mine? I'm not thinking about that at the moment. I'm wondering, you know, day to day, how does animal communication help you with your cats, or you know, with animals outside? How does it help you?
Well, I think prior to doing this, it was a lot of anxiety. I still have emotional times in my heart where I think back of all the years I had with animals and animal friends that I didn't know how to communicate, or didn't know that I could communicate, or that they could communicate with me. And I have all these feelings of emotions that bubble up because I have such loving animals that were in my house, they were in my life, Jimmy, and they helped me. I had these two collies that when I was abused, I would go and I would lay down with them, and I know they comforted me, and I know they brought such comfort to me, and I didn't realize then that they were. That they knew everything that was going on, and they were so aware of everything. And I think that now that I know, when I'm with the two cats that I have in the house right now, when I talk to Dean, when I'm talking about anything, I know that they are totally aware of everything. I sometimes have to be careful because the male is aggressively affectionate, I'll knock you over to be pet. And the female, she's, you know, she wants to be pet, but she kind of stays a distance. So as a human, I'm trying to gain that. I want that relationship with her. But if every time I do that, he comes running up like a child that says, "Wait, pet me." And I'm understanding the character. Like I never thought of that before. I never thought of their personalities in that character, so that I can say to him. Now, I might not send him images like, "I'll pet you later." I don't do that with my cats. I'll basically say, "I'll pet you in a minute. Hang on." But I know now that through the work that I'm doing as a professional communicator, I understand now that every thought, they are aware of. So I need to be very careful. I need to be a guardian of my thoughts. Be a guardian of my thoughts. Like I'm constantly saying, and I say it, I'm like, "Oh, Dean, this cat litter smells so bad." And then sometimes I'll go in the bathroom and my cat will follow me, and I'm like, "I don't come in your cat litter, out of here." So I don't want it in my bathroom. But I know that he hears me say that, you know, like, "You stink, like this stinks, this smells." Like, okay. He's just be like, he's like, "What do you want me to do? I live in a condo. I don't go outside. What do you want from me?" So I'm aware of I need to be more sensitive. I think I need to be more careful in that direction. But that has helped me a lot, Jeannie. I have such comfort now knowing that I can talk to them. I can talk to them.
Yeah.
If I'm going away, if I'm going on a trip, I can say to them, and I do. I'm like, Marie from upstairs is going to come down. She has extra treats and toys. You're going to love her.
Yeah. But don't love her too much, because I will be back.
but isn't that a wonderful thing to know? We didn't know that prior to this. And then the cat would, be schizo when you left because it had no idea you were even going on a journey.
Exactly.
I had a fire recently. I put a pizza box in the oven to store it till later. I was just like, instead of a cupboard, I put it in the oven. Okay. And I forgot about it.
Oh.
And so the next night I put the oven on to cook, and smoke is billowing out of the oven. I was so upset. I was upset with myself. Yeah. I was upset because I live in a condo and the fire trucks have come, and there's people here and I'll evacuate everything. So I'm getting windows open, but my cats have never been outside. So I'm opening up windows, but here's the cats. I mean, this is how I was able to communicate to them. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's just me. I was dumb, whatever. But they went down because there was smoke. They went down and they went into a safe area. And I was frantic because I thought the cats were out, because I was opening up windows and opening up doors, and they were perfectly fine. They were perfectly fine. And I was saying to them, I was telling them. So that's the part of the communication, that being able to know that they understand me and that I can understand them in a mild. But I'm not an expert at this, Janine. I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody that's ever done this as long as. Matter of fact, if you ever think you are great, then you need to check yourself at the door, because not one of us, there's not one of us here doing this work that can't learn something a little bit more. Oh, yeah, there's something more to be brought to us. And an animal, believe me, I know for this that it's not going to come from a human. It'll probably come from an animal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, Lorraine, it's just been so wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing. And was there any other pictures you had there to show us?
Well, the horses, as I told you, so these horses, so even today, when I do all of this work, these horses, if you go to my website, calicohorses.com, and
I'll put that in the comments or the description.
The horses are still very prominent in my work. You'll see them on my work. And if you look at my gallery, people will always say to me, like, what's with you with horses and lions? And now that you know that what my story is, you can totally understand that. I do have one more picture to show you. Hang on. I did this Black Panther, which just sold in a show. Oh, this panther it's in an exhibit right now here in Florida, and it just sold. So this is called Welcome Rain. Now, this is an interesting story. This Black Panther, what came to me, now all of my art that you see, every piece of textile art you see comes to me in meditation. So that means I go into meditation and I say, if there's an animal here who would like to have their portrait and has a message for humanity, please step forward. And then animals step forward, and I have a list of them that'll step forward. So this animal steps forward, and this is the first time it's ever happened to me, Janine. This animal is pacing, and my heart's racing, and I feel the emotions of this cat because he's in captivity. And then he shows me the Amazon rainforest. So he shows me that, and then the captivity, and then I get that. So it goes back and forth. So he's saying to me, this is what I'm going. This is the cat that I'm getting. So I promised the cat that I would depict him in his natural environment of the Amazon rainforest. And before I closed, I said, is there any message that you have? Is there anything you'd like to say? And I heard Cambodia. So I believe he was poached. I believe he was in Cambodia in captivity. I promised him that I would do this. He just sold. The picture just sold. This was created in I'm going to say this was probably created in 2020, maybe 2019, and it just sold. But that's another thing, Janine. I never, ever, since Mandela told me not to worry about what's coming back, get all of that out. I knew that at the right time, at the right place, that this piece of art would sell for a purpose that I didn't know when it was coming or how it was coming. I don't know. And I think that's the part that trust, Jenny, when you say you have a strong character, it's that I don't have any wobbliness. There's no wobbliness to this. There's no me saying, what am I going to do with these horses up here? When it's the right time, it will go. And if it doesn't, I have plenty of wall space, so I'm perfectly fine.
If you run out of wall space, there's always a ceiling.
I do have sisters that say to me, they're like, oh, Lorraine, if you don't want to use that, if you're not using that,
oh, nice.
That's okay.
Nice. Okay. Oh, well, thank you. I've loved every minute of this. I'm so grateful. And I'm going to put your website address and your Etsy shop. I'll also put the names of the books on the description of the video. So, and any students that ever need any just to have a shoulder to speak to, I'm always available. Yeah. I've been there, I've done this, and I know in the beginning and even in the middle of this it can be stressful, and sometimes you wonder, why am I doing this? Like, why am I getting into this? But I just want you to rest assured that you were called to do this. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody, for watching this. Thank you, Lorraine, and I'll see you next time.